Emma had imagined her wedding morning 1,000 different ways, but none of those dreams included standing alone outside a crowded train station with tears threatening to ruin her makeup. The white garment bag hanging from her hand felt heavier with every passing second. Inside was the wedding dress she had spent months choosing, a dress that represented every hope she had carried since Daniel had proposed a year earlier. Her phone vibrated again. She looked at the screen, praying that this time it would be Daniel calling to explain everything. Instead, the same cold message remained at the top of their conversation. "I'm sorry. I can't do this. Don't look for me." No explanation. No apology beyond those 6 words. No answer to the dozens of calls she had made in the last hour. The wedding ceremony was scheduled to begin in less than 45 minutes. More than 100 guests were already arriving at the old chapel overlooking the river. Her parents had traveled across the country. Friends had flown in from different cities. Everything had been paid for. Everything except the one thing that truly mattered. Emma leaned against a stone pillar, trying to catch her breath. She couldn't walk into that chapel alone. She couldn't face the whispers, the pity, the questions. "Are you okay, miss?" An elderly woman selling flowers looked at her with concern. Emma forced a smile. "I'm fine." The lie sounded hollow even to her own ears. She walked farther into the station, hoping the movement would help her think. Around her, people hurried to catch trains, laughed with friends, hugged family members goodbye. Life continued as if her world hadn't just collapsed. She sat on a bench and buried her face in her hands. "What am I supposed to do?" She whispered the question to herself. After several minutes, she looked up. Across from her sat a man reading a paperback novel. He looked to be around 30, dressed in a navy blue shirt and dark jeans. A worn leather backpack rested beside him. Unlike everyone else rushing through the station, he seemed perfectly calm. He noticed her looking and offered a polite smile before returning to his book. Emma looked away. "No. That's ridiculous." But the desperate idea refused to leave her mind. She stood. Sat back down. Then stood again. Finally, before she could lose her nerve, she walked toward him. "Excuse me." The man lowered his book immediately. "Yes?" His voice was gentle. Emma suddenly realized how insane this was. "I'm sorry to bother you." "You're not bothering me. I know this is going to sound completely crazy." He closed his book, giving her his full attention. "I've heard some strange things before. I doubt you've heard this one." A nervous laugh escaped her before tears filled her eyes again. "My name is Emma. I'm Ethan." She nodded. "Nice to meet you. You look like you've had a terrible morning." She laughed bitterly. "You have no idea." For a few seconds neither of them spoke. Then Emma slowly placed the white garment bag on the bench between them. Ethan looked at it. "A wedding dress?" She nodded. "My wedding is supposed to start in 40 minutes. Congratulations." It would be, if the groom hadn't disappeared. His expression changed instantly. "What?" He laughed. "I'm sorry." He sent one text message. Then turned off his phone. Ethan stared at her, unsure what to say. "I don't even know why I'm telling you this. Sometimes it's easier to tell a stranger." Emma wiped another tear from her cheek. "My whole family is waiting." He remained silent. "My parents spent their savings on this wedding." Still he listened. "I can't bear the thought of walking into that chapel alone." Ethan looked down for a moment. "I'm truly sorry." She took a deep breath. "I'm about to ask you the most ridiculous favor anyone has ever asked." His eyebrows rose slightly. She picked up the garment bag and held it out toward him. "Please." Her voice shook. "Act like you're my fiancé for 10 minutes." Ethan blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "I know how insane it sounds." "It does. I only need 10 minutes. She rushed through the explanation before courage abandoned her. Just walk in with me. Smile. Let everyone think everything is normal while I figure out how to tell my parents privately. You don't expect me to actually marry you? No. She laughed despite herself. Of course not. Just pretend? Please. He looked around the busy station as if expecting hidden cameras. This feels like the beginning of one of those unbelievable stories. It probably is. You don't know anything about me. I know. I could be a terrible person. You could. And you're still asking? Emma looked directly into his eyes. I don't know why. She hesitated. But you don't seem like one. Ethan sighed. My train leaves in 20 minutes. My entire future is falling apart in 20 minutes. That sentence hung between them. He studied her face. The ruined mascara. The trembling hands. The desperate hope that anyone might help. Finally, he closed his book completely and slipped it into his backpack. My grandmother used to tell me that sometimes life introduces people in the strangest ways. Emma barely breathed. He stood up. I'll help you. Her eyes widened. What? I said I'll help. You will? For 10 minutes. She covered her mouth, unable to believe what she had heard. You don't have to thank me yet. I can't believe this. I have one condition. Anything. If at any point this becomes dangerous or dishonest beyond helping you speak to your family. I understand. I'm walking away. Emma nodded immediately. That's fair. He smiled gently. So? He looked at the elegant white garment bag before meeting her eyes again. I suppose we'd better get to your wedding. The drive to the chapel felt unreal. Emma sat in the back seat of a taxi, her wedding dress spread carefully across her lap, while Ethan sat beside her, quietly staring out the window. Neither of them spoke for the first few minutes. The silence wasn't awkward, it was filled with thoughts neither knew how to put into words. Finally, Ethan broke it. So, your fiancé's name was Daniel? Emma nodded. Yes. And everyone expects me to be him? She gave a nervous smile. Not exactly. Most of my relatives haven't met him more than once. We lived in different cities for most of our engagement. That helps. But my parents know him. Ethan raised an eyebrow. That's less helpful. Emma sighed. I know. She looked at the chapel appearing in the distance. They're going to find out eventually. The plan was never to fool them forever. No. She took a deep breath. I just need a few minutes to tell them privately before the guests realize what's happening. Ethan nodded. I can do that. The taxi stopped outside the beautifully decorated stone chapel. White roses lined the entrance. Soft music drifted through the open doors. Guests wearing elegant suits and colorful dresses filled the garden, laughing as if nothing in the world could possibly go wrong. Emma's stomach twisted. I can't do this. Ethan looked at her calmly. You already are. I feel like I'm going to faint. Then don't think about everyone. He smiled reassuringly. Just take one step. She looked at him. Then another. His steady voice somehow slowed her racing heart. She stepped out of the taxi. The moment they appeared, dozens of heads turned. There she is. Someone cheered. Guests began clapping. Emma forced herself to smile. Without saying anything, Ethan gently offered his arm. She hesitated only a second before accepting it. Together they walked toward the chapel entrance. They look wonderful together, one elderly guest whispered. Emma heard it and almost cried. At the entrance stood her father. His eyes immediately filled with emotion. My little girl. He hugged Emma tightly. I'm so proud of you. Emma hugged him back, struggling not to break down. "I'm glad you're here, Dad." He stepped back and smiled warmly at Ethan. "Daniel." Ethan extended his hand naturally. "It's good to see you, sir." Emma silently thanked heaven. Her father shook his hand. "Take good care of my daughter." "I will." The words came so sincerely that even Emma looked at him in surprise. Inside the chapel, bridesmaids hurried around making final preparations. Emma's best friend, Sophie, rushed over. "There you are." She hugged Emma tightly before looking at Ethan suspiciously. "You seem different." Emma's heart skipped. "Different?" Sophie folded her arms. "You shaved." Ethan touched his face instinctively. "I thought I'd surprise everyone." Sophie laughed. It worked. Emma nearly collapsed with relief. For a few precious minutes, everything seemed almost normal. Guests found their seats. The musicians tuned their instruments. Children scattered flower petals across the aisle. But peace never lasted long. Daniel's older brother, Michael, walked over carrying 2 glasses of champagne. "There you are." He handed one to Ethan. "My brother." Ethan accepted it politely. Michael frowned. "You seem quiet today." "A lot on my mind." "I guess that's normal." Then Michael smiled. "Remember that fishing trip when you fell into the lake?" Emma froze. Ethan had no idea what he was talking about. For one terrifying second, silence filled the room. Then Ethan chuckled. "I've been trying to forget that story for years." Michael laughed loudly. "I knew you'd say that." Emma almost laughed from pure relief. Ethan had escaped the trap without pretending to know details. As Michael walked away, Emma whispered, "That was incredible. I guess laughing was safer than inventing a fish." She smiled for the first time all day. Moments later another challenge appeared. Emma's mother approached. Elegant and graceful, she kissed Emma's forehead before turning to Ethan. "You both look nervous." Emma swallowed hard. Her mother gently touched Ethan's sleeve. "I've always trusted you'll make my daughter happy." Those simple words pierced Emma's heart. She couldn't lie anymore. Before she could speak, one of the wedding coordinators interrupted. "We're ready." Everyone began moving toward the ceremony hall. Emma grabbed Ethan's arm. "I need to tell them now." He nodded. "Go." "My legs won't move." "They will." She looked into his eyes. "What if they hate me?" "They won't." "What if everyone laughs?" "They won't remember today because your groom disappeared." She frowned. "They'll remember because of how you faced it." His confidence felt stronger than her fear. Emma nodded slowly. Together they walked toward a quiet room beside the chapel where her parents were waiting. Her father smiled. "Is everything all right?" Emma could no longer hold back. Tears rolled down her face. "Dad!" Her voice broke. "I'm so sorry." Her mother immediately stepped closer. "What happened?" Emma couldn't answer. Instead, Ethan quietly stepped forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter." They both looked at him. "My name isn't Daniel." Silence. Confusion spread across their faces. Emma covered her mouth. "I met your daughter less than an hour ago." Her father's smile disappeared. "What are you talking about?" Ethan didn't look away. "Daniel isn't coming." Emma finally found her voice. "He left me." The room became completely still. Her mother stared in disbelief. "No." Emma handed her phone to her father. He read the message twice. Then a third time. His hands trembled. Her mother burst into tears. Emma expected anger. She expected disappointment. Instead, her father walked toward her. Without saying a single word, he wrapped both arms around his daughter. "You don't ever have to apologize for someone else's betrayal." Emma broke down completely. "I'm sorry." "No." He gently held her shoulders. "You have nothing to be sorry for." Her mother hugged her next, crying into her shoulder. "We're just grateful you're here." Emma looked toward Ethan. He quietly stepped back toward the door, believing his part in the story was over. But before he could leave, her father called after him. "Young man." Ethan turned. "Yes, sir?" The older man walked over and shook his hand firmly. "You were a stranger." "Yes. You didn't have to help my daughter." "I know. But you did." Ethan smiled modestly. "Anyone should have." Her father shook his head. "No." His eyes filled with gratitude. "Not everyone would." The ceremony never took place, but no one remembered that day as a failed wedding. Instead, they remembered the courage of a bride who stood before more than 100 guests and chose honesty over pretending. After wiping away her tears, Emma walked into the chapel with her parents by her side. Ethan stayed near the entrance, ready to leave quietly without expecting thanks or recognition. But before he could slip away, Emma turned toward him. "Please don't go just yet." He nodded and remained where he was. The guests fell silent as Emma stepped to the front of the chapel. The musicians stopped playing, and every pair of eyes focused on her. She took a deep breath, gripping the microphone with slightly trembling hands. "I owe all of you the truth." A wave of whispers spread through the room. "My fiancé isn't coming." The whispers grew louder. "He chose to leave this morning." For a brief moment, the room was completely silent. Then Emma continued. "I thought about pretending everything was fine. I even asked a complete stranger to walk beside me so I could find the courage to face my family before facing all of you." She looked toward Ethan. He said yes. The guests turned to look at the quiet man standing near the back. "He didn't know me. He didn't owe me anything. Yet he showed me more kindness in 10 minutes than someone else did after years together." Several guests wiped tears from their eyes. Just then, the large chapel doors swung open. Daniel rushed inside, his suit wrinkled and his face pale. "Emma!" Everyone turned. "I made a mistake," he shouted, hurrying toward her. "Please forgive me. I panicked. We can still do this." Emma looked at him calmly. A few hours earlier, she would have run into his arms, desperate for an explanation. Now she simply shook her head. "You didn't panic, Daniel." He stopped walking. "You made a choice." "I was scared." "So was I." Tears filled his eyes. "I love you." Emma smiled sadly. "Love doesn't disappear with one difficult morning." Daniel lowered his head, realizing there was nothing left to say. Without another word, he turned and slowly walked back through the chapel doors. No one followed him. Emma looked around the room filled with family and friends. "I'm sorry today didn't become the celebration we planned." Her father stood up first. "It still is." The guests looked at him. "We're celebrating my daughter's strength." One by one, people began applauding. The applause grew louder until the entire chapel echoed with it. Emma couldn't stop crying, but this time they were tears of relief instead of heartbreak. As the guests gathered for lunch instead of a wedding reception, laughter slowly returned. People shared stories, embraced Emma, and reminded her that she was surrounded by those who truly cared. Outside the chapel, Ethan quietly prepared to leave. Before he reached the parking lot, Emma caught up with him. "You never even got your train." He smiled. "I suppose I didn't. I don't know how to thank you." "You already did." She tilted her head. "How?" "You smiled." For the first time that day, Emma laughed without forcing it. 6 months later,